Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, I'm JTP, and today I'm going to talk about a bit of a controversial subject. I don't normally get involved in all the YouTube drama or all the controversial subjects for that matter, but I've got an opinion, and I'm quite opinionated, so I want to air this opinion and see what you guys think. So if you guys have been keeping up with the YouTube drama recently, you might know that PewdiePie made a bit of a slip up in his live stream recently, and I'll get onto that in just a second, but first of all, two things. Number one, this video is not defending PewdiePie in any way, okay? Before anyone goes into the comments and says, you're just a fanboy, PewdiePie could kill babies and you'd be fine with it. No, okay, no. And number two, I'm not doing this to capitalise on the drama. You'll notice that I haven't put PewdiePie in the title or in the thumbnail because I don't want to be seen that way. I don't want to be seen as the guy who just capitalises on all the, on all the drama to get the views. I'm not into that kind of shit. So, you'll notice that I haven't done this to put PewdiePie in the thumbnail or the title. I've just got a bit of an opinion about this, the whole reaction to it. It kind of pisses me off, and let's get onto that now. Okay, so first of all, what PewdiePie said, if you don't know, he said the N-word in stream over rage, okay? And I get what everyone's saying, okay? When you're a big public figure like that, you need to filter yourself, and it's not very acceptable to be throwing racially, unacceptable words out there just willy-nilly. And it's happened before, PewdiePie's one of those people who, he acts before he thinks, and he makes mistakes. We've all seen this before, okay? Everyone makes mistakes. In fact, I can think of just last night I was playing PUBG and I went on a massive ass rant about how that guy's a cunt because he didn't die, When you get angry, every gamer's done it, especially if you play shooters, Every gamer has got angry at some point and has thrown an insult out there, whether it be a racially offensive slur, which a lot of people do, whether it just be a load of swear words that don't make sense, that's what I normally do, everyone's done it in some way. So, I can understand, yes, I know, not everyone's a public figure, and not everyone is, on stream all the time for thousands of people to watch, and not everyone has an audience that may be impressionable. I get that, but everyone's done this, everyone's human, and I think people are forgetting that a little bit. But anyway, moving on to my own opinion about the reaction, because the reaction is the bit that's it's kind of pissed me off a little bit. It always does trigger me a little bit when this happens, because it's just a word. Everyone just needs to chill out. Like, Jesus. Stop. Just stop. I understand it's not a great word to say, but I've got some problems with this particular word anyway, because people think it's such a big deal, and I really don't think it is. I'm one of those people who, you can say pretty much anything to me, and I won't be offended. Yes, there are a couple things about, me personally, that if you said, I'll be like, how could you? But most things, and especially racial slurs, don't really affect me, and yeah, okay, I'm not of a black colour, so racial slurs aren't very common in my direction, there are white racial slurs, but not many people really, target the whites for racial slurs. That's normally the black community, I get that. So I'm not really on the, the receiving end of racial slurs very often, but to be honest, if anyone came up to me and thought of the worst white racial slur they could, I wouldn't really give a shit, because it's not worth my time getting, pent up and angry about that when, just one person either is inconsiderate enough to hate me that much because of my race, that's just stupid, and just immature enough to throw something like that at me, I know PewdiePie isn't very racist. He's a very nice person, he's done a lot of charity work and stuff like that, but at the same time, everyone has an angry dark side, and let's face it, PewdiePie is a little bit immature at times, so there you go, there's your answer. But this is what I don't get about this particular word, the N-word, okay? Because some people, more normally people within the black community is absolutely fine with saying it, but as soon as a white guy says it, it's like, to quote the Joker, everyone just loses their mind, It's a bit crazy, and what I don't like about the fact that, some black people are like, that's our word, you can't say that word, but we're equal to whites. Okay, so, let me get you straight here. You say you want to be equal to all races, okay? I agree with that. All races should be equal, I get that, but when you then take words from the English language and say, actually though, we're all equal, but Black people can only say the N-word. You're not allowed to say that. You're basically right there. What you're doing is you're taking the equality and you're splitting it by language. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Because you want to be equal, but then actually some words we're only allowed to say. You can fuck off. If you say that, it's a terrible thing. You're splitting the races through the English language, which is, you know, one of the most important and powerful things. So that's one thing I don't like about that particular word. It's the fact that if one person can say it, and that's absolutely fine, then everyone should be able to say it, and that's absolutely fine. You know, either completely abolish the word, or everyone can say it, okay? Whether it be offensive or not, it's just stupid how one group of people can say it, and it'll be absolutely fine, no one bats an eye, and then one other group of people can say it, and everyone's like, how could you do this? This leads me on to my next point. It's to quote iDubbbz. I know iDubbbz isn't, you know, a massively respected figure to everyone. I get that, but he has a good point when it comes to stuff like this. He quoted, it's either all okay or it's all not okay. And that's a very good point, because some people would argue that the word cunt is just as bad as the N-word. I'm not going to say it because everyone will be like, how could you? And it really is down to personal opinion as to how bad a word is, you know? Different people rank different words as good or bad. So in that case, to stop everyone from being offended, you either get all the words that could be offensive, you know, all your swear words, all your racial slurs and all that stuff, or they're all okay, and then the people who get offended will just have to learn to not take stuff so personally, because I do think people are very overly sensitive. For example, PewdiePie wasn't actually, you know, throwing that racial slur at anyone in particular, but yet loads of people are like, I am very offended by this. He didn't turn to you and say, oh my god, you absolute N-word, in a hateful way. He doesn't even know half the people, any of the people who are getting triggered about this. And I think if it's thrown in your direction and it's a personal insult to you, you have every right to be, you know, you have every right to be pissed. I get that. But, for example, I've seen a YouTuber who was trying to be racist to white people, and he said, you're all fucking snow chimps, okay? Now, first of all, is that an insult anyway? And second of all, really, it was aimed at not me in particular. It was aimed at just a big group of people, and to be honest, it doesn't really have that much effect on anyone. I mean, he's saying something, but really, does that ruin your day? Does it ruin your life? You have to kind of step back and think, okay, look, this person said something, yeah, and it's not really deemed appropriate in today's society, but has it ruined my life? No. Okay, I'm going to move on then and worry about something more important, you know? I saw a post that said, there's hurricanes in America ruining people's lives right now, and the #1 news story on YouTube is, PewdiePie said the N-word. You know, there's bigger problems in life, and I think people overreact about the small stuff way too much. So I'm just going to give you an example as to how much the media, for example, have overreacted. This is from a Frag Hero. I just saw this on Facebook, thought it was quite funny. It says, PewdiePie's latest screw-up, the worst yet, might be the end of his career. Oh my god, might be the end of his career? That's such a massive overreaction. What? If he got through the media calling him a Nazi, which is pretty much the worst thing that could possibly happen, and, you know, the worst thing that could happen to your career, and he still got through it, I'm pretty sure he'll get through this, don't worry. I appreciate the concern, Frag Hero, but I'm sure he'll be fine. And of course the media are going to overreact, you know, they'll overreact about the smallest thing that PewdiePie does because they seem to be out to get him, you know. Anything he does, it just blows out of proportion. Ever since the whole anti-Semitic and Nazi stuff, you know, now they're just kind of nitpicking and looking for little things, and then if there's a little thing like that, a little slip up in the stream, boom, we'll make it a massive thing, you know, that's what the media does. They blow stuff out of proportion for their own gain. So, to be honest, a lot of the overreaction of this whole, you know, story is probably down to the media. And for those of you who are offended by this word and, you know, have reacted in a bad way, I do understand that, but if you don't want a word to be hateful, or you don't want a word to be used very much, then just don't overreact, because people say things to get a reaction out of people, you know? Humans are like that. They're very rebellious, and they want to see, some humans just want to see the world burn. Okay, that's maybe a bit of an over-exaggeration on my behalf, but some people just say words to get a massive reaction out of people, you know? If someone walked into a shop and shouted the N-word, they would get a reaction, and they would feel happy about that. They'll be like, haha, I made that happen, you know, and they'll feel quite proud about themselves. It doesn't sound great, but that's human nature. So if you don't want a word to be used, just don't react over it. Simple. Because if someone walks in and says that word to try and get a reaction, and you don't react at all, they're going to be like, oh, that was shit, I won't try that again. You know, people say things to get a reaction, but if you don't have a reaction, what's the point in saying those things? So my standpoint on it is, someone comes into a room and says something that's meant to offend people, just don't react, because they're looking for a reaction. They want a reaction, you know? In this case, okay, PewdiePie didn't want a reaction. He really didn't want a reaction, because he knew the media would be all over him, you know? But in most cases, if you don't want a word to be said, and someone's saying it, just don't react and they won't react. And if you think PewdiePie is the kind of person who does and says outrageous things to get the reaction of the audience, okay, that's kind of his shtick, you know, he's good at it, he's very good at it, because he speaks before he thinks, you know, and in this situation, I don't think he definitely didn't plan that, but he's used to, that's just his nature. He says things to get a reaction, and he said that, and he got a reaction. Not the reaction he wanted, and he didn't want to say it, I can imagine, in the first place. In fact, you know, you could see in his eyes, he regretted that afterwards. I was in the stream, you know. He regretted saying that, and he knew that would blow up in his face. But the guy, you know, he's a nice guy, and he does say things to get a reaction, so I'm not sure why everyone's surprised at this point. He's done it a lot in the past. And finally, I'm going to close on this point. So, I say the word cunt quite a lot, okay? It's now just a thing I say a lot. But long ago, it was a word that I was forbidden to say in the household. If I had said that, I was the worst person in the world. And I just accidentally kept slipping up and saying it in the household, and my mum would have a go at me. But eventually, I said it so much that the word lost its meaning. You know, if you say a word enough, and it's a terrible word like cunt, oh no, I said it, if you say it enough, it will lose its effect, and people won't care anymore. And I'm not saying we should just go around, you know, repeatedly saying the N-word constantly, because it is a word that society deems inappropriate. But if you do, you know, if you want a word to not really have that much lasting effect on people, then just kind of put it into your vocabulary, and no one will give a shit anymore. And I think, you know, people do tend to overreact about these words that are apparently forbidden, but really, what harm does it do? Yes, a couple hundred years ago, when slavery was within its prime, that word was very offensive, and it was, you know, it was a very, very bad word, but very commonly used word. Now, I think society needs to evolve to a place where that word isn't a very, very bad word, and it isn't used for racial slurs, but it's also just not used very commonly. It's just there, you know? People use it sometimes, and people are like, okay, we'll just fly it by, or just pass it by, because, let's face it, I mean, the world has come a long way since, you know, the massive amounts of racism, back even in the 1950s and 60s. Society has evolved a long way, and yeah, we still have got a lot of evolving to do. There's still a lot of racism in the world, but I don't think that these words should now dictate what we think about people, because, let's face it, a lot of people who aren't racist say words like that. PewdiePie isn't a racist person, you know. I know a lot of people within my family who use that word, and they're not racist at all. They don't even mean it in a hateful way, you know. So overall, yeah, I think people really overreacted about this. I think people should, you know, have the courage to just stand up and move on, you know. Don't sit here and just point at this guy telling him he's an awful person, because that's not going to help anything. That's just going to cause a lot of drama. It's going to cause a lot of hate. What's the point? Just, yes, you heard a bad word. Move on. It doesn't matter. Maybe I'm just too chill, but I'll be interested to see what you guys think in the comments down below. So please let me know on your opinion on this whole fucking thing in the comments down below. I think I've made my, you know, point very clear. I'm not a hateful person in any way. I'm not a racist person in any way. I've got many friends of colour, you know, and I've been talking to them about this recently, and there are mixed opinions within their group as well. So I think the reaction is very different depending on, you know, what social group you're in, what racial group you're in, and where you live. So I do understand why there's a wide variety of reactions, but personally, I think there's way out of proportion, and people just need to chill the fuck out. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Of course, this doesn't excuse what PewdiePie has said. Yes, he's a big public figure, as I said at the start, and he shouldn't really be coming out with these racial slurs, come on, you know. But people do make mistakes, we're all human, and I do think that, just chill out, okay? Just go to bed, drink some tea, have a bath, meditate, and chill out. But thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. Be sure to have your say in the comments down below. I'll be interested to see what you guys say, and I'll be interacting with you guys as well. So thank you very much. Until next time, I shall say good. Okay, let's go test this out. Iron Whip, go. Oh my god! That's insane! Can I take that? Thank you very much. I'll take some more iron. Hello fellas, how you doing? You don't stand a chance, I'm so sorry. Can I get on this? Punch it, there we go. Punch it real good. Fellas, we can talk about this. Ow!